a poem written by John Song for his AH112 assignment, and it reads, "The mask he wears is of bamboo, light and flexible, it's comfortable, tough, unbreakable, it's invulnerable. It protects the raw flesh of his formless face from the wind and rain, and from his friends the mask protects the filthy failure of his face. It masks the pain of pressure where the oddities protrude, and the boils that grow and fester make the need for it renewed." So he thought and lived and lied until he met one day a face without a bamboo mask, a face in full display. Rough and ugly though it was compared to that of wood, it shone with strength and pride and life, a lack of all falsehood. He jumped and turned and observed the masks that grew 10 feet a day, fit for every circumstance and swapped without delay. He looked around and saw the same disguises that he kept on the face of every person he had thought he could accept. "Don't live so you can protect yourself," the face one came and said. "Protect yourself so you can live, insist on that instead." The poem is laid out in 5 stanzas, where the first one is a tercet, the introductory stanza. The story stanzas are 3 quatrains, and the last stanza is a couplet, which is a and it acts as a conclusory stanza. Another element of the poem, poetic structure, is that there is an clear AABB rhyme structure, although it starts at the end of the second stanza. And there's also a alternating iamb meter and trochee meter. The iamb meter is where the first syllable is unaccented and the second one is accented. For example, the first line of the red bold, "a face without a bamboo mask." And the trochee meter is the opposite. First is accented, second is unaccented. "Rough and ugly though it was." Right. And so these alternating rhythms, contributes to the general feeling of rhythm, but not a monotony to it. Now, considering the literary elements, the first one is the metaphor. But there's actually 2. The mask is by itself a metaphor for the personas that people put up in the face of protecting themselves from vulnerability, usually, or in extreme cases to completely change, completely hide who they are. And the second metaphor is that the mask is not only made of bamboo, but it is bamboo. And the reason why bamboo was chosen is in the bolded. It's light and flexible and tough and unbreakable, so it's very comfortable and it's protectable, which is ideal for a mask. And also, bamboo grows 10 feet a day. It's one of the fastest growing plants, and it's ideal for creating new masks on the fly for new situations, which is how often people often use their masks, right? They switch out their masks for new ones when the situation arises. The next one is vivid imagery, which is especially seen in the second stanza, of raw flesh and the boils that grow and fester on the faces of the people. So people think that people's faces, or their true selves, as a metaphor, is, as they say, raw. It hurts to touch because it's very soft and still new, right? And they never allow it to grow, to meet with the air and actually toughen, because they wear a mask. But by doing so, it's ironic how the mask actually doesn't fit their face perfectly, and that causes boils to grow and fester. Sorry. The next literary element device is the alliteration, flesh of his formless face, and they're all in red highlight, and or else the consonants, where if it's not alliteration, but consonants are repeated. Need for it renewed, lived and light until, the L sound in that one, right? And it's in bold. The next one is the parallel structure. There's 2 here. The first one is the 2 lines of the first stanza. Light and flexible is comfortable, tough, unbreakable is invulnerable. There's a grammatical structure that is the same. And on the beginning of the 3rd and 4th stanza, thought and lived and lied, jumped and turned and observed, the consecutive action verbs that the main character takes when he sees something new, something that he hadn't considered. And then finally is the chiasmus, where you change the order of the words to get a completely different meaning, right? And so this is actually the didactic note with which the poem ends. And it could have been and I guess the main idea of the poem could have been conveyed with this one sentence. So in general, people should try to become more vulnerable, show people who they are and accept people for who they are as well. But just saying that directly appeals to the logic of a person, and that's not necessarily that useful. Now, what an art does, what artistic representation does, and in this case a poem, is it takes all these literary devices that we talked about and it creates a sense of repetition and also a sense of beauty and rhythm, and that appeals to the emotions of the person, not only the logic. And by doing so, it moves the person more holistically into whatever the author wants the person to move towards. And in the historical context for which this was written is in the modern era, where where disconnection from others and the feeling of where the societal norm where you have to act strong and never be vulnerable is a big societal problem. With the internet and social media, there is more distance between people. Well, there is a superficial distance is closer, but actual distance becomes wider. And as a result, people have to act perfect on social media. And as I said before, there's a social norm of acting strong and putting up a front, but never being vulnerable.